Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Volusia Flagler Cares. I'm your host, Kelly Lacombe, and I have just an excellent guest with me today. I've tried to get him. We have back and forth. This is, I think, the third time that we've been able to actually get this set up. And my guest today is Sean Hawkins, the Chief Executive Officer of the Halifax Humane Society. Welcome, Sean. Appreciate you getting here finally.
Hey Kelly, it's great to meet you, and excited to spend some time with you today, talking about the good stuff we're doing at Halifax Humane Society.
That was some of it, and I did your bio. That's kind of the way I like to lead in, and then get into some of the programs. But gosh, after I started getting into all of the programs you got going on, it was like, this may be a two-parter.
It
But
could be, it could be.
well, I got to say that the county of Volusia was extremely lucky to get somebody of your credentials, and you can be credentialed, but it doesn't mean you can still keep going. And you have managed to really do a wonderful job with something that as we were discussing earlier, they had a lot of the parts and pieces. It just took somebody to kind of bring it all together a little bit more solidly and in a right direction that everybody could go in that direction. uh you are a certified animal welfare administrator, is that
Correct.
correct?
That is accurate. Yes.
And a certified fundraising executive. That's like the perfect uh,
Well,
perfect credentials that you would need to do your job.
it's funny to bring that you bring that up, because in so many either executive director or CEO roles, you have a leaning to one, either operations and the actual
Right.
animal care piece, or you have the fundraising piece. And so it's an unusual hybrid, to have your
Yeah,
foot
each
in both
one each one
sides.
is so demanding. I mean, well, not just demanding, but it's something that if you have it, you can really do a lot for it. I mean, to know what you're doing. There's people that, call you up and, hey, let me sell you a little corner of a magazine. But this is more of a leap of faith. This is more of uh leadership, really. And so my hat's off to you, Sean. But one of the things that I did want to talk about uh, is that the Cleveland Amory author and humanitarian, he had you establish the National Animal Sterilization Clinics. Was that what?
Yeah. So when I was, I was a punk kid in high school in Houston. I volunteered my time, at the local animal shelter. The organization was called Citizens for Animal Protection.
Oh,
And,
nice.
as a kid in high school, I realized, you know, there were too many animals coming in the front door, and, most of them were going out the back door in body bags. And
Right.
so, this was, in Houston in the 80s, at the height of pet overpopulation. And, the kid wanting to save the world, I'm like, when I grow up, I'm going to do something about this. And so I built, through literally bake sales and garage sales at my parents' home, raised the money to build Houston's first mobile spay and neuter clinic. It was actually, I mean, at the time, I didn't know it was the first mobile spay and neuter clinic in the United States. And that became the Spay Neuter Assistance Program. And mobile in Houston was important. The city of Houston,
Sure.
just the city of Houston, is 600 square miles. And so, even if you have a free spay and neuter clinic, people who
Right.
live in income challenging neighborhoods
Right.
have
It's an
no
hour
way
and a half to
to
get.
get. So I'm, again, the kid, and I was, fearless, and I hadn't been told no enough. So I was like, well, we'll just put a spay neuter clinic in the back of a truck. And so that's what we did. I had the opportunity to meet Leslie Alexander, who had just purchased the Houston Rockets basketball team,
Oh, wow.
and literally sat in Les's office and drew on the back of a piece of paper what this mobile clinic was going to look like. And he said, kid, how much money do you need to do this? And I said $250,000. And he stroked a check from his, the checkbook in his desk drawer and said, "Here, go do this."
Oh, wow.
So we created this mobile clinic program to go into poor neighborhoods to provide free spaying and neutering for dogs and cats, with the goal of reducing homeless puppies and kittens from ever being born.
Right.
I didn't understand scope and scale. And, the little
Right.
efforts that we're making in Houston were, nationally a drop in the bucket. But Cleveland Amory, who was, your audience will probably remember, his famous books, The Cat and the Curmudgeon, The Cat Who Came for Christmas, and The Best Cat Ever was a cat trilogy. But he was
Oh,
also the, society commentator on the Today Show, and was the editor in chief of Parade magazine for years. He was the
wow.
head of the Fund for Animals in New York, and he happened to be coming through Houston on a book tour, and he heard that, hey, there's this mobile clinic in Houston that's going around doing free spaying and neutering to help with dog and cat overpopulation. And he came out to the clinic site, and I met him and walked him through the clinic. And on the spot, he says, "Hey, I want you to come do this for me. I want you to come open these clinics all over the US." And that's
Holy
what I did for the
moly.
next, 18 years.
Wow. Were they all, mobile, or were there, any bricks and mortars?
So there were 5 stationary clinics, 5 mobile clinics in 4 different states.
Man, that is an
So
operation.
we were on the ground spaying and neutering. The organization, again, the Spay Neuter Assistance Program, we were spaying and neutering 500,000 animals a year through all 10
Oh,
clinics. And
my
so
god.
again, in the the 80s and 90s, spaying and neutering was not as accessible as it is today.
Right.
The number of homeless pets entering shelters was 40 to 60 million. That is not the case today. Fast forward, 25, 30 years later, and spaying and neutering has made a significant impact. Even
Right.
here, at Halifax, just 15 years ago, 16 to 18,000 homeless dogs and cats would be euthanized at this shelter. And that was
Really?
before the Halifax Humane Society opened its spay and neuter clinic,
Right.
which has been operating now for 15 years, the Redinger Spay and Neuter Clinic on Mason Avenue. And, that little clinic is spaying and neutering, 9 to 10,000 dogs and cats a year for the general public. And,
Who? Man,
our
holy
effort,
moly.
yeah, and that's been going on for 15 years. And so that, along with, Volusia County has a spay neuter clinic, and there's other low cost services. And so we've really seen the volume of homeless animals coming into
Right.
shelters decrease significantly. And so it's a very different time than it was in the 80s when Cleveland um,
Oh,
hired
yeah.
the punk kid to go open clinics.
Well, and congratulations. I mean, wow, to have sold that to, and these aren't like just, idiot people with just stupid money. They would have to know what they're getting. That's just tremendous, Sean. So does that tie in with the Hero Dog Awards? How does that work out? Or is that a totally separate deal?
No, so when I left Snap in 2005, and the organization is still operating today, is still very, very successful. But I left the organization to hang out my, consulting shingle and to go,
Sure.
help other organizations, create some of these programs. I was hired by the Dog Whisperer television show, which was on National
Oh, I
Geographic
love that show.
for many years, and I was hired to create Caesar's charitable foundation, the Caesar and Illusion Milan Foundation, and so
No
that
kidding.
took me out to LA and was at the foundation for a couple of years until the show went off the air. The foundation was
Caesar.
closed when Caesar ended the TV show, and so at that point, I had all of Caesar's great celebrity contacts, and was getting my footing, in LA, and created a PR agency called Unleashed Public Relations, a business partner who
Man,
also left the Milan organization at that time. And our purpose was to connect celebrities with their pet causes. And so, we helped Katherine Heigl launch her foundation. We helped Pink when she was, wanted to get involved with her national puppy mill campaign. Caesar
wow.
hired us back to do special projects for him. And the American Humane Association hired us to create a national signature event that celebrated the human animal bond. And so we modeled the Hero Dog Awards, which is what the event became after CNN's Hero Awards,
Right.
and created a television show that celebrated all of the wonderful things that dogs do with people. And that was a black tie gala at the Beverly Hilton Hotel, a national voting contest. People
Right.
could vote for their favorites, and then the gala was taped and then edited into a TV show that we sold to Hallmark Channel, and Hallmark broadcast the Hero Dog Awards for the next 11 years. So, it, the spay neuter work led me to LA because of what I was involved with fundraising and creating these programs,
Sure.
and then that led to the Hero Dog Awards.
Man, well, Sean, good God, you really you're really up there. You rank in the there's got to only be a few people that with this kind of credentials and these kind of contacts and that has put this type of these types of programs together because they are important. I remember in the Keys, and I'll give you one of my quick uh spay neuter stories. I worked at a warehouse, so I had to go to bed early and be in the office at 6:30. And every night at 11:30, this big gigantic calico cat would come by my room and just and I was starting to lose it. It was like and every morning before I would hit the second alarm, that cat would come by and do the same thing. And I was freaking out. Well, finally, my wife and our next door neighbor, they were like, all right, listen, we'll take care of it. So they went to the Friends of the Animals. That's what it was called in Key West.
Okay.
They got one of those, the cage things, put it
The
in, I
humane
guess.
traps.
Yep, they put in the stuff, and sure enough, man, within like an hour, bing, there's this big orange yellow calico cat. They run over to the spay neuter clinic. They do it, paid the money, came back as they are releasing the big orange calico cat. They see the one that was the problem cat walking the other way, and they had just spayed their neighbor's cat.
Oh no. Oh,
Yeah, that was a knock, knock, knock. Excuse me, but anyway, it was it was all with the right intention.
I'm glad you got her spayed. Even that just makes a little bit of a difference.
Right, right. Well, now you guys are a full-blown 501(c) public charity, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
We have been since 1937. We will be 90 years old next year.
Oh my God. I didn't even know that there was like a conscious effort, until, wow. So what, how did that even start? What would, is that part of that whole, be kind to animals week thing?
So I think many of these organizations, these legacy organizations that were started 100 years ago, all started from in some instances were social clubs that wanted to help animals. I don't think that there were these lofty goals of, ending pet overpopulation or,
Right.
ending the use of carriage horses, and, not here, but in New York, that was a big
Sure.
thing. And I think, in this instance, the very first official act of the Halifax Humane Society was to participate in Be Kind to Animals Week, which is celebrated the first week of May and is, believe it or not, the oldest celebratory week in U.S. history. It is the longest running, dedicated week that has been recognized in our country's history. And that was really just an educational campaign for people to have signs and placards and to wear shirts to be kind.
Right.
So that those were the early origins of the organization, and then eventually leading to creating an animal shelter and keeping animals off the streets.
Well, and if anyone wants to go take a look, um, it's really, I think, a good website to go to, and that's the Halifax Humane Society.org. And the reason why I'm bringing that up is because there are just so many different services that you have that if we literally just listed them and ran through it, I don't think we'd have enough time. You guys really do provide a lot of different things, and all the while you still have to go through a turnover or a churn of volunteers. I mean,
Yeah, we're none of the work that we accomplish is possible without our volunteers. So we
Mhm.
have a paid staff of 75 full time employees. We're caring for almost 15,000 animals a year through our various programs, but that's direct hands on animals, 15,000 per year. There's no way that our tiny staff could provide all of those services without volunteers. As a matter of fact, internally, I refer to volunteers as unpaid staff. I don't even call them volunteers.
right.
They are unpaid staff that show up every day to do the work. And we have 452 active volunteers that support the organization.
Oh, moly.
It's really really amazing.
Wow. Well, I think that most people, like when I think of the Halifax Humane Society, I just think of, okay, if I'm ready to get a dog, I'll go to see you guys. And that would be, about what would run through mine. And again, I am not the typical person, but sometimes I can be. But I think that if they go to your website, they're going to find that what you guys do is almost like a just a whole dog life or and cat. What am I saying? And where it's into the behavioral issues, teaching them different things. I mean, life skills for dogs. It is absolutely astounding that you guys have all of these programs over and above just keeping track of animals that come in and try and get them adopted. So, God, Sean, that is
So,
something to be commended.
well, it truly takes a village to accomplish all of the work.
Right.
But there's kind of two program areas that we've really leaned into the last 2 years. One is our Open Paw program, and Open Paw is manners and skills training for shelter pets. So when I arrived here 2 years ago, we had an average of a 49-day length of stay for an adult dog in the shelter. And national statistics are anything over 14 days is a
Right.
problem. Pets who are in the shelter, every day that a pet is in the shelter, beyond 14 days, their likelihood of leaving the shelter into a home is decreased. And so having a pet
Right.
in the shelter for 49 days is just too long. And then the other statistic we look at is the return rate. So 2 years ago, 26% of the adult pets adopted from the shelter were returned within 30 days of adoption. So the animals were staying too long, and the animals who were leaving into homes were coming right
Mhm.
back. And so we launched a program called Open Paw, which is manners and skills training for shelter pets. And so every activity in our shelter now is geared towards putting a skill set on board with a dog and cat. This is for dogs and cats. It is going to help them adapt to life in a new home. So you say,
Right.
what's this guy talking about? So some of the things that we do, in child welfare, we teach stranger danger, right? Everybody's heard keep your kids
Sure.
away from strangers. Well, in animal welfare, every dog and cat in this building is going to go home with somebody they don't know. So the more work we can do to desensitize dogs and cats to unfamiliar people, the more social they're going to become,
Right.
the friendlier they're going to present. And that means people walking through the shelter looking to adopt are more likely to take them home. So
Right.
we implemented a rigorous hand feeding program. When you come to our shelter now, first thing we say is, you here to see dogs or cats? You say, I'm here to see your dogs today. We say, you're part of our training team today. I need you to come help me feed the dogs, and we hand you a bucket of food
Right.
and a cup of high value treats. And we ask every visitor to the shelter to walk through the adoptable dog kennel and hand feed the dogs. And if any of the dogs exhibit, a really special behavior like a polite sit or a head tilt, that extra little thing that's going to help them get a
Mhm.
home, we ask you to treat or reward that behavior. So what we're doing is we're teaching pets that when people come through the kennel, that it's a good thing. They're going to deliver food. And if I
Right.
do this special thing, I'm going to get a treat. So now when you go through our kennel, the dogs are running up to the front of the kennel. They're politely sitting, and that makes them more adoptable. The
Sure it
other thing
does.
that we do is we've put all of the dogs on three potty walks a day, which are largely driven by volunteers. We have about 200 dogs in the building at any time, and so
Wow.
when we're doing three potty walks a day, that's 600 dog walks a day. We do them at 7 a.m., 12 o'clock, and 5 o'clock religiously, 7 days a week. So what we're doing with the potty walks is we're putting unpotty trained dogs on a schedule. It's the first thing you do to get a dog trained. But we're
Right.
teaching them leash manners and skills, and then we're also getting them that enrichment outside of the kennel. And
And the
so,
social skills too, I
right.
imagine.
So now, fast forward, 2 years later, because the dogs leaving here know how to walk on a leash, they're house trained, they're not afraid of people. As a matter of
Right.
fact, when you put one of our dogs into one of the meet and greet rooms, usually they come right up to you and sit and look right up at you. And how can you not take that dog home, right? So we've decreased our length of stay now for adult dogs is 6.8 days. So the dogs don't stay here. And our
Okay.
return rate is 7%. So below national averages. And
Wow.
if, if you look at our population, Nothing has changed about the type of dogs that come through the shelter. It's the same high energy, large breed, usually these big blockhead dogs. It's the
Right.
same type of dogs. But what's different is we're putting the work in to get them ready to go to a new home.
Well,
And
and I think
you,
that even just, by doing what you do and the process that you're doing it probably brings a better qualified new parent into the mix.
I hope so. But I also think that the more work we do in getting the dogs ready for a new home, the better they're going to adapt, even to a
Sure.
novice pet owner home. So
Well,
we're sending we're sending the dog out the door with some training on board, and we hope that those skills then transfer to the family. So the family knows, hey, this dog's going out 3 times a day. This dog is used to eating out of a Kong. This dog knows how to sit. It's almost, the dog's training the new family in their routines.
well, that does lead me right into the foster animals. Now, is that a program that you guys do there?
Yeah. We have, typically this time of year, we typically have, 1,400 to 1,500 animals in our system of care. We'll have,
Ooh.
usually 200 to 300 pets in the shelter building itself, and then an additional 500 to 600 pets out in community foster homes. This time of year, it's mainly neonate or baby kittens, orphaned kittens, and we really rely on the community to step up and provide those
Right.
foster homes. And what a foster home, we provide the food, we provide the veterinary backup, we provide, all, the carrier and the blankets. We provide everything you need to take care of a litter of, orphan puppies or kittens. We just need those volunteer families to step up and provide the love and the home until those puppies and kittens are old enough to come back and be spayed or neutered and then put on the adoption floor. So that's typically the process. But
And
we're always in need of foster homes. And you can sign up to be a foster family right on our website under the program button. It says
we'll
foster
go
home.
ahead.
And
Sean, I'm going to go ahead and post that when
okay.
we do our post editing. We'll insert that. I've got that, the volunteering if they want to make a donation. But before that, uh, you mentioned that you helped someone as a foster, as well as even some of the people that might be sitting on the fence. They can't afford, dog food, or there's something like this. Is there anything that you guys do to help close that gap?
So that's kind of I talked about open paw, and that's the work we're doing in the shelter to get these pets ready for their new home. The other big program deployment that we've embarked on, this in my time here, is creating, we call it an animal safety net. And so our goal now, as opposed to being the convenient place to drop off an unwanted animal,
Right.
when you walk in our admission side, the first thing we say is, "How can we help you?" And so we have now a whole series of programs that we can offer to citizens, to pet owners, to help them try and keep their pets. Many
Right.
times people, get to the point where, they're at their wits' end. They don't know what else to do. And they walk in our door and want to hand over their dog or cat. And now, kind of flipping the model, the tagline we use is no judgment, just help. How can we help you? And sometimes, we're finding out that, a family's been split up, a family got divorced, or somebody lost a job, somebody lost, housing unexpectedly, and they just need that gap filled. And
Yeah.
sometimes it's as easy as providing dog or cat food for a month, while the family gets back on their feet.
Right.
Um, and that's all that family needs to keep the pet in the home. Our goal is to keep families together. We don't want to be that easy drop off point for animals when a family's having a crisis. We want
Right.
to work with the family to keep, and honestly, Kelly, it's usually the only family these dogs and cats have ever known. And so when they come to the shelter, you know, we have to fix whatever the issue is. So,
Yeah.
if they're sick, if they
Can
can't
you
afford a
imagine
vet
the
bill,
horror?
um, we have to fix that problem, and then I've got to turn around and find the animal a home. So,
Right.
what if
Right.
we eliminate all of that and we just say, how can we help you do better? How can we help you keep your pet? And
That's a
so, if you,
great
again,
idea.
on the website, you'll see our animal safety net programs and some of the things that we provide, and you touched on them. The pet food pantry. We provide behavior and training assistance.
Well,
Sometimes it's
I didn't actually talk about your pantry or the fact that you do have items for sale in like your own shopping cart or mall
yeah,
there.
we do have a full line pet supply store in the shelter, and so when you purchase products from the shelter, of course, that funding goes right back into caring for homeless dogs and cats. So if you're in need of collars, leashes, carriers, please, consider us as one of your stops.
Right. And you make it so simple. They can just order online.
Yes, sir.
Well, now, I guess people who want to know where they can, find you or what, uh, where is you? I know your main campus is right there on the west side of LPGA.
Right. All right. At the
Just
intersection across from the Tanger outlets and Bucky's. So that's the intersection where we live.
okay,
2364 LPGA Boulevard.
okay. And then you said that there's also a spay and neuter clinic as well.
Right. The Spay and Neuter Clinic is at 600 Mason Road, right there in Holly Hill.
Okay, okay. And uh, is the thrift store part of your internet store?
No, the thrift store is not online, but the thrift store is there, right on the edge of Ormond Beach,
Uh huh.
and it is 385 Young Street, and that is open from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. every day but Sunday, and it's a huge revenue generator for the organization. So we have great everything from clothes to couches. We do a really
Right.
good job of curating what's on the floor. And then all of the proceeds there, 100% of those profits go back to support the shelter operations, which is pretty cool. So if you're doing some late spring cleaning and you have, clothes or,
Right.
gently used household items, you can, come to the thrift store and donate those. And we also hope that you include us in your shopping list when you're looking to buy gifts or things for your house.
Yeah, that's a great idea. And I'll tell you, now it's become like a national obsession. They have like these women online who, they'll just all it is just them picking up a dish and looking at the back of it, and talking and stuff. It's crazy. But, a lot of these thrift stores get donations of, somebody who might have just passed away or whatever, and nobody went through or
Yeah.
looked at it.
So there's always hidden treasures. Every single time I
Right.
go into the thrift store, I end up leaving with something that I really didn't need, but I found. Right.
Right.
So there's and this, important for your viewers. We have a huge pet supply section. So if you don't want to pay retail prices for any pet supply, go to the Halifax Humane Society thrift store. Collars,
Hmm.
leashes, carriers, toys, bowls, and we have all we in really good condition. Sometimes we get large shipments from Chewy, PetSmart, Petco. So sometimes
Oh,
it's
right.
brand new merchandise been discontinued. So we're a great source for discounted pet supplies.
Well, sure. And then everybody else gets the deal. That's that's marketing and sales 101. Well, I'll tell
Yeah,
you what, Sean, man, this was just needed to be done call. You really have quite a bit of just the programs that I think are not only, that you're doing something, but they're very cool and I think very effective. So my hat's off to you, and the whole organization. Over 400 volunteers. That's quite a few. So it's definitely the village doing this. But I want to thank you for coming on and explaining to us what I think a lot of people, I know I didn't have, of what you guys do and the resources available to this community through you.
Well, I love talking about the organization. I think we're a hidden gem. I think, the community has a long, held belief of what the Humane Society is, and we're a different organization today. We're here to help
Right.
people and pets. We're here to keep families together, and provide services, to the community for people who care deeply about animals. So thanks for exploring a little bit about what we do, and I look forward to
Right.
hopefully
I
seeing
know
some of
you're the one
your.
who has all of these programs. Otherwise, it would have taken 8 different editions. Anyway, Sean, thank you for being on, explaining everything, and
Thank you very much. I
look
really enjoyed it.
forward to helping you guys any way that I can.
Okay, thank you.
All right, everybody, that concludes another edition of Volusia Flagler Cares. We'll be back next week with Kimberly from the Children's Home Society. Anyway, you guys have a wonderful afternoon. Take care, and always remember that, it does take a village, and there are resources that are there to help you. Just give us a call. Bye-bye.
Things are truly better with us.